We're about news, commentary, conversations, truth, liberty, and God. We stand for American values and our flag. We believe that the Constitution is a document that fortifies rights already given to us by our Creator. We will not apologize for our love of God and country, ever. We are Right America Media. Welcome back to Granite State Live. We're going to have a fantastic episode here for you today. On the call sheet for today, we have our first guest, and for the second segment of the show is going to be Jared Knott, author of Tiny Blunders, Big Disasters, Book 2. And we're going to get into Trump, Ukraine, and the Russia meetings. The third segment, we're going to have Erik Weir is an entrepreneur, author, and investor, an advisor to talk Trump's tariffs and how they affect Americans. All right, that's something you want to know, how it's going to hit your wallet. And our final segment for the night will be Tim Keller. And we're going to get into the MAHA thing because, why would anybody have any problems with the MAHA movement? Don't we all want healthy food? Don't we all want to not have poison, be ingesting poisons on a daily basis? And don't we all want to avoid type 2 diabetes? I think so. So
Do
make
we really?
sure.
Do we really? Do we really?
I don't know. Apparently, it's a contentious subject. We got producer Juan is going to be chatting it up with us.
I am so excited about this, Julian. I mean, the first time I'll be able to just really talk to you and hopefully talk to the audience. Hopefully, by the way, our number, 833-603-8255 or 833-603-TALK. Please give us a call. The lines are open. We can get you through right in. No opinion is a bad opinion as long as you talk to us, and we can just very civil talk to each other, right?
But that's become such a contentious thing these days. You can't have conversation unless you can't really have a conversation unless you're, throwing jabs at each other and doing it for clicks these days. It's always got to be contentious.
It is. And you and I were talking about this before. You and I being military man, we appreciate what physical fitness, for example, means, right? Yeah. So you being a Marine, you with your crayons and all that kind of stuff. I with the Air Force, obviously the guy who likes a real nice VOQ with good cable while we fight a war, right? But anyway, we were talking about this gentleman in X who was giving Peter Hegseth a hard time for his last pull-up on a challenge of 50 pull-ups, 100 push-ups under 5 minutes. Now, the guy has 1 million followers on X. And the first thing he puts there is the last 2 seconds of the video where Peter Hegseth completes pull-up number 50. And says, oh, this is the way the Army guys do it? What a disgrace. Something like that. Well, I'll tell you what, okay? I look at the picture of the guy, and I'll be surprised if he can do 5 to begin with, right? And second, being a Marine, because he claims to be a Marine, I thought Marines actually taught honesty. Be honest with what you say. And that really, really today pissed me off.
Well, you know what? The problem is that there's an ecosystem of people online who all they care about is getting clicks, and all they care about is being able to get jabs. It's tribal warfare. It's political gangbanging. And Ron Flipikowski is who we're talking about, and Ron Flipikowski is gay. The problem is, and this is something that comes up like during training. When you're not doing it for score and you're not doing it for, for promotion or anything like that, when you're in the gym and you're practicing, what do? Those last couple push-ups that you're about to face plant, you cheat to get in the last couple. Like, go ahead, go that extra distance, get that last one or two that you can't do. When you're bench pressing, you have that guy who's giving you a little bit of boost on that last press to get that one extra bump. And when you're doing pull-up, you kip those last couple.
Kipping.
Like, get that last one in. Come on, you can do it.
Keeping pull-ups, right? Exactly. Yeah. That's keeping pull-ups. I used to do a lot of CrossFit in my days, about 12, 13 years ago, while I was doing my last tour. And, I prefer for one of my airmen to do a keeping pull-up than not to do any pull-ups at all.
Yeah.
Because it may not be a full pull-up, but it's still better than doing nothing.
You're going to get something out of that.
Exactly.
Too.
Exactly. The same thing with butterfly pull-ups. And initially people used to complain about that stuff, but you look at all those people that kept doing that in CrossFit, they got healthy, they got better, they got big muscles, that kind of stuff, man. Yeah. It's better than the guy who's just freaking complaining on X, saying, "Oh, that's a bad pull-up."
Not everybody comes out as a perfect physical specimen able to pop out 20 pull-ups. When I was active duty, 20 pull-ups was a perfect score. 18-minute 3-mile run was a perfect score. 200 crunches was a perfect score. And now you're looking at these guys like, first off, RFK, way to put it up there, man.
How old is this guy now?
He's in his 60s. He is a beast, isn't he?
He is a beast.
I'm
going to have to look that up.
Yeah, he might be a bit older. Like, I think he might be in his 70s because he is an absolute beast. And I'm not even saying he's a beast for his age. I'm saying he's a beast based on the entirety of men throughout the USA.
71.
71 and still, wow.
71. And this guy is doing pull-ups, doing push-ups. And by the way, okay, let's just put aside the thing about doing a right pull-up, doing a right push-up, whatever. When was the last time that you saw the Secretary of Defense among troops doing PT?
Shit, last time I saw the Secretary of Defense amongst troops doing anything but talking.
Yeah.
Like, I've never seen it.
And actually,
we used to joke about that when we were active duty. We'd sit in a smoke pit.
Yep.
And we'd all be talking about, like, man, wouldn't it be great if these guys in frickin' suits were actually to come down and do a field exercise with us, go on a hump with us, hang out in the smoke pit and actually talk to real people rather than go to the command center on base and get their asses kissed for a couple hours. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if they actually heard our perspectives instead of talking to the higher ups about our perspectives? Like, it would change the dynamics of the way, the military was run if they knew how regular everyday troops actually live, operate, what we think.
What a concept, huh? For leadership to actually see what their troops are doing and what they think and how they feel.
Yeah. And it's changed.
It has changed. It has changed. When we talked about General Austin, or when I think about General Austin, who was General Austin? For those of you that don't know, he was the last Secretary of Defense on the Biden administration. All I remember is that picture where he had a face mask, a glare shield. Mm-hmm. He was like Darth Vader to me.
Yeah.
And that's how the troops looked at him. The guy who sits in the Crystal Palace. Mm-hmm. Disappears for days and nobody knows where he was at, right? Instead of the guy that is with the troops. Peter Hegseth makes a point of being with the troops at some point or another during the week. Yeah. And I'm not talking troops at the Pentagon, down in the field.
Yep.
and that gives confidence. By the way, if Peter Hegseth was a Democrat on the Democrat administration and he would do the same thing, I would give him credit. Give credit where credit is due.
Exactly. And I think that's what we lost in like American dialogue recently is we got to the point where we care so much about what jersey the other person is wearing that we can't even give basic credit where credit is due.
Exactly.
Like if you were a Democrat, I'd still say same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got to meet Obama once. Obama came and I got to shake his hand. I mean, I'm not saying we're best friends or anything, but by all means, the way he interacted with us, he was cool. He's a cool guy. Seemed like a guy that you could have a beer with. I wouldn't vote for him. Yeah. There's not a damn thing that he's done as president that I probably, there's very few things I probably agree with, but you know what? He seemed like a cool guy. And I could say that regardless of whether someone's a Democrat or a Republican. I think we've lost something in American society when we see each other so antagonistically that we can't even humanize the other person. We immediately jump to say that because this person is on the other team, everything they do, say, think is bad. And I'm like, no, a Secretary of Defense who actually cares about the troops is a good thing.
It's a good thing, exactly. If getting the American public to be healthy, that's a good thing.
Yeah, and especially like having a Secretary of HHS, who is actually healthy himself.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, the last one was a trans non-binary thing. And I'm like, wait a minute. You're obviously suffering from severe mental health issues, and you're the one who's going to run the HHS?
Yep.
And not only are you suffering from serious mental health issues, you're trying to normalize those mental health issues and get the government to pay for other people's mental health issues? Or I'm sorry, for exacerbating the mental health issues. Like it's just I don't know. I feel like we're in a twilight zone right now.
we are in a twilight zone where right is wrong, wrong is right, left is right, right is left, down is up, and up is down.
Yeah, it's like what we were talking about during a break. My wife was having a conversation with me because my son said he wants to go into the Marines, and as a Marine and as a family of continuous a large, very, very long, about 150 years of service on both sides of the family. I am proud of my son for making that decision. I didn't pressure him into it. He just decided to do it. And my wife was like, but I'm worried. And she said she's worried because, we're going to be midway through 2026 will really be the bellwether to decide whether there's going to be a backlash against the Trump administration into the opposite direction, or whether this movement is going to continue into 2028, and seeing who actually declares to run and how the reception is throughout the country in 2028, we'll see whether the pendulum is going to swing back towards the left. And my wife was saying that it was so far, like the military got so ridiculous under the Biden administration that she was actually very worried that like, she doesn't want my son to end up in combat standing next to somebody who is not mentally fit to be on the battlefield or physically fit to be on the battlefield, or the morale is at a point where we prioritize things other than war fighting. And I was like, she's like, so I want you to have a good discussion with him about having a backup plan. And that's only a conversation. She's like, that's really only a conversation that can come from you because you served. And so I'm going to have that conversation with my son. I'm like, I can't even imagine how many other parents throughout the country are going through the exact same thing right now.
Yes, I agree with you. It's I have to say that it was very, very difficult during the Biden administration for me as a military man to be able to talk to young people and say, hey, the way to go is through the military.
Yeah.
I had a really, really hard time, believe me, before then, even during the Obama administration.
Yeah.
I used to say, yes, military is a way to go. It makes men out of kids, pretty much, and men and women, out of kids. But I couldn't turn myself into saying that kind of stuff during the Biden administration.
Mm-hmm.
I'm beginning to, as I see that we're not looking to start any more wars. We're not looking to be the police force of the world, you know, I'm beginning to turn around a little bit towards that again, in which we can do, I can do talk to young people and steer them in that direction. So, but it's because I know that the Secretary of Defense, for example, is trying to concentrate on what's important
Yeah.
for a military man. What is important for me to be trained properly to do my job as a military man, and for the person next to you to do the same. As a pilot, I want to have a great wingman with me.
Yeah.
As I was flying airplanes, small airplanes, with big booms, right? I wanted someone else next to me that had my six, literally my six, and they knew what to do. Not that they were from one color, from one gender, from whatever. I didn't care. I needed someone that could do the job that would cover my six and help me come back alive. If that case was, that I had to do something. So
yeah. I think the over focus on DEI within the military was in the Department of Defense was something that was completely morale breaking for a lot of the guys that I know that were still in. We talked and they're like, dude, this is getting ridiculous. We have classes all the time on stuff and we rarely go to the range anymore. It's like there's tons of money to talk about stuff that, to be honest, for most of us isn't an issue. Like the vast majority of the military isn't an issue. That's where those issues go to die.
Yes.
Because there's a mission that supersedes your own personal shit. And when we're all focusing on the mission and mission accomplishment together, the idea in the most successful military members that I have ever met, they are not black, white, male, female. They're not Jews, Catholics, whatever. They are Marines, airmen, soldiers, seamen. Seamen. What do you call the Space Force guys? Do we call them Trekkies?
Well, they're the Guardians.
Yeah, okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy. But when you join, you're supposed to give up all of that superficial stuff as your identity and focus on the fact that we all have one mission. We have one calling. We have one thing that drives us, and that is the protection of the United States and the American way. And when that is the mission, it's easy to make all that other stuff take the back seat. But instead, they made all that other stuff the mission and made defending the country take the back seat. So, and then I'm sitting there going, shit, well, I'm looking at young people who are graduating. They're seeing the vast majority of their peers go off to college, get degrees that don't translate into a job.
Nothing.
I mean, shit, there was a viral YouTube video or a viral clip that went a while back. It was like 18 women explaining their degrees. And it's like, yay, we're the most educated populace in the country. And then you listen to their degrees and not one of them had a STEM degree. Not one of them had a degree in anything that was even remotely applicable to any job market.
The history of American basket weaving.
Yes. And it was like, so congratulations, you went to college. You just racked up $50,000 in debt to get a job that doesn't translate into even $50,000 a year.
At the low end.
Yeah. You're qualified. You're no more qualified at that point than the guy who flips burgers at Burger King.
Yep.
So, so I'm looking at these young boys, because most of them, obviously, 85% of the military are young boys. I'm looking at these young boys, I'm going, damn, I can't even recommend the military right now because they're going to go into the military, and the focus of the military is woke as well. It's to focus on stuff other than warfighting, which means that it's a liability. You could end up in a battlefield and get shot because you're not trained properly.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Even during the later years in the Obama administration, while I was still in, I remember getting orders from headquarters, from a command, to go building by building, to gather a bunch of colonels, go building by building, and take down everything that was offensive to someone. That could be offensive to anyone. Okay? Are you freaking kidding me? Don't you think that 06s or full-bird colonels have better things to do than to go to the gym, by the way? Go to the gym and take down the posters of people showing how to do an exercise or using, because it could be offensive. It could be, what do they call that? Shaming, because
Yeah.
they don't, because our airmen don't look like that. You got to be kidding me. You know,
It,
we
it
had better things to do.
yeah, I don't understand it. I really don't. It's like we've gotten to a point in society where, and this goes to like the body positivity thing. It went from you should be comfortable in your own skin and not get to the point where you log online or you read a magazine and you think less of yourself, that you feel like you need to be bulimic or anorexic in
Yeah.
order to be in shape. And I agreed with that statement. But then it got to the point where it's like, no, we should celebrate mediocrity to the point where not only should we celebrate mediocrity, we should celebrate being below par for being fat, for being stupid, for being a waste of space, for literally being a drain on society and those around you. That we should celebrate the idea of being unhealthy. And I'm like, I don't understand why anybody would take a position that being unhealthy is a good thing, just to make somebody feel better. No, it's a bad thing all around.
Oh,
When
no.
I've been on a diet. I am down about 20 something pounds right now. When I bought these pants that I'm wearing right now, I bought these pants for my son's graduation. When I bought them, there's one of those cases of you buy them and the size says one thing, but they don't fit like the size that they say. So I put them on and I was squeezing into them like I was like a sausage. I look like a sausage in them, like I was wearing spandex. Today, I get up, I get out of bed, I get my workout in and stuff. I go to put on these pants to get ready for coming in the show today. And I'm able to button these pants and have space in these pants that just a couple months ago I was barely squeezing into. I feel really freaking good. I'm able to button this jacket without a problem that months ago I had problems buttoning. I couldn't actually, I was sitting here on air and couldn't actually button it. So it's like I'm looking at the people who are flipping out and trying to pretend. I'm looking at the people who are flipping out and trying to pretend that, focusing on making America healthy and focusing on making our war fighters actual war fighters. I'm looking at them and I think they're insane.
They are insane. And by the way, every now and then I come out of out of the frame here, and it's because I'm doing some of the producer stuff at the same time. So I appreciate you when you're going along a little bit just to give me that opportunity. But yeah, another thing, in talking about overweight people, I take my mom to go to Walmart. She likes to go to Walmart. She's 86 years old, and she likes to just, with her shopping cart, she still wants that independence.
Yeah.
Right? To go around and get her own stuff. She wouldn't even let me pay for the stuff, and we're talking about small stuff, right? But anyway, at the same time, you get to see Walmart people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see this 30-year-old something, 30-something people
Yeah.
that have to have the little, motorized car because they can't walk.
Yeah.
It's overweight. Now, there's 1,000 different reasons why it may actually be the case, okay? But I also see the ones that walk that have their shopping cart full of bad food,
Yeah.
and they're overweight. It doesn't take a genius to figure out if you're eating Cheetos as your main meal,
Mhm.
you're gonna have problems. What they call ultra processed
Yeah.
food right now, and that's what I think Secretary Kennedy is trying to tell people. Don't do that,
Mm-hmm.
and he's an example, 71 years old, and I think it's working. It's working.
I completely changed my diet, like especially while I'm my wife and kids, because when you're a parent, you sort of you cook to the degree of what the kids are going to eat. Because I have daughters, they're young. My youngest is still in that phase where like mac and cheese and hot dogs are the greatest thing on earth. I cook for while my wife is gone. I went and bought simple stuff. I bought meat, I bought rice. I bought eggs. I bought like 60, I think that's 64 eggs or something like that. I was having like 6 eggs for breakfast, I was having avocado. I was so 6 eggs for breakfast, avocado, cottage cheese. I'd have a snack that was like cottage cheese and peaches. Later on, I'd have another snack that was like 28 grams of protein. It was protein Greek yogurt, so I'd have 28 grams of protein and a serving of that. Later on, after that, I might have another like a protein drink or whatever. And a treat that I like to always do is I'll take protein powder, and then I'll mix it in with the Greek yogurt, with the protein Greek yogurt, and it tastes like cheesecake. Yeah, it tastes.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah, it tastes like cheesecake. It's a nice, healthy treat that it still allows me to stay on my diet. And then for like dinner, I'd be eating like salmon, rice, sweet potatoes, and or steak, sweet potatoes, or but I would or steak and like Brussels sprouts or broccoli or whatever. But every single night, I was cooking for myself something extremely healthy. I was eating healthy snacks. I got rid of ultra processed stuff all over my house. And the more I did that, and I worked out every single day, sometimes twice a day. I would do calisthenics in the morning, and then I would lift at night.
There you go.
And I got to a point I was like, damn, I feel so freaking good. It took not 2 days. I was filling out sleeves. I was filling out my sleeves in some of my t-shirts. And I'm like, where I was filling them out in the other way before. So all of a sudden it's like I could feel my chest was getting bigger. My arms are getting bigger. I was filling out my t-shirts better. I was noticing that some of the jeans that I would wear that started to feel tight started to feel looser. And I'm like, this feels good. And now that I'm back on my diet and I'm back on getting healthy and stuff again and taking care of myself, not just physically, but mentally as well, I've noticed I have zero tolerance for ultra processed foods. It actually makes me sick to my stomach.
Yes.
I can't even have ultra sweet stuff anymore. Like we take the kids to Moo's down the road to get for the hot rods on Monday and get ice cream. I got a frap, and like I want to say a third of the way into the frap, I was sick to my stomach. I was like, dude, I can't. Nah, it's way too sweet.
No, exactly. Your body actually, once you go into that and that lane, your body will tell you what's good for you, what's not good for you. You know, a few years back, I went, Right American Media went down to CPAC in Orlando. And a friend of ours, of Keith and I, took a picture of the both of us. And I was pointing at another guy. I was laughing, all that kind of stuff. And I looked at the picture. And that's when I said, enough is enough.
Yeah.
Okay. I went from being, in 2013, I was a CrossFit instructor at the base where I was a deputy commander, to being over close to 45 pounds overweight.
Yep.
Because my other job it's not conducive to do a lot of physical fitness, and worse, to eat well.
Yeah.
Okay. Just like Granite Rock says, eat less, move more, be like JFK Jr.
Was it CPAC when I ran for office 2020, 2022 cycle? I was down at CPAC. I want to say when I started the cycle, I was around 210, which is about 5 pounds over my maximum regulation weight for the Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
But I was still in good shape. I was still lifting on a regular basis and stuff. I had dumbbells at the house. I would still go down to the basement, hit the heavy bag for about 30 minutes, get in a good anaerobic workout and stuff. And then, and I'd stretched every day and stuff. I got on the campaign trail, and it was so unconducive to eating healthy, because I'm driving 300, 400 miles a day, lapping the state, and all I could get on the road was like fast food crap. And all of a sudden, by the end of the campaign trail, I was hovering at around 245.
Ah, wow.
Yeah, like 235, being sedentary in my, 235, 240, being sedentary in my car for the majority of the damn day. And
that will do it.
Yep.
That will do it. Well, I just want to get close up because we are past our break time real quick.
Yep.
And anyway, I was 215. I'm now 175. I started moving. I do an intermittent fasting. I actually started doing something. Just
Yeah.
do something. I don't care what it is. Anyway, Julian, we do have our next guest. We're going to do a commercial break, if you don't mind, but I can't wait to talk to Jared Knott. He is the author of Tiny Blunders and Big Disasters. He knows a lot of things that actually turn history to what we know it is right now in some great events. So if you don't mind, we're going to go to a commercial break, and then we'll have Jared Knott with us.
All right, let's do it.
United We Stand. A Marine's Fight, written by Marine Corps veteran Julian Eschyard. This book examines the deepening fractures in our nation, political division, government overreach, and a fading sense of shared responsibility, and offers a battle-tested path forward. A Marine's Fight is a bold and urgent call to action for every American who believes in the founding ideals of our republic. United We Stand. A Marine's Fight can be purchased on Amazon.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. Douglas Ernest dives into the thrilling and transformative journey of a man who defied the odds to forge his path as a soldier and a businessman. This book is more than an autobiography. It's a call to action. Experience the remarkable story of a man who never takes no for an answer. You can find The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest, on Amazon.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
All right, welcome back to Granite State Live. Up next for this segment, we have Jared Knott, author of Tiny Blunders, Big Disasters, Book 2, The Many Tiny Mistakes That Have Changed the World Forever. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
All right, so what inspired you to write the book, sir?
Well, it's people ask me that, and it comes from an old saying that comes down from Benjamin Franklin. That for one of the nail, the shoe was lost. For one of the shoe, the rider was lost. One of the rider, the battle was lost. One of the battle, the empire was lost. The empire was lost, all for the want of a nail. That's a nice old saying, but how often does that really happen, that a single tiny mistake causes an entire empire to collapse? You will be amazed how often it happens over and over again.
Okay. Can you give us an example?
That's a fair question. Yes, one of the first items I came up with when I first conceived the book was it has to do with the Watergate break-in. And the teaser is that a single piece of tape rotated several inches the wrong direction, changed the outcome of the Vietnam War, and led directly to the Watergate scandal. And the which doesn't make any sense. It's the smallest piece of tape makes it too much difference. It has to do with the Watergate break-in, and the James McCord and the Cuban operatives broke into the Watergate complex through the parking garage, and they were told to hold it. Jimmy the lock. They're told to hold the striker down with a single piece of tape in the vertical position. They made a mistake and they put it in the horizontal position. So when Frank Wills, the night watchman, came walking down the hall, sees the tape on the door. Oh wow! He calls the Washington D.C. police. I think he had to call them twice, and they were going to send the uniformed officer, but there was a strong rumor that he was intoxicated in a local bar and could not respond to the call. So they sent the bum patrol instead, as 3 officers dressed as hobos in a jalopy car. They pulled up to the Watergate, and you look out, does not recognize them as police officers. He comes in and arrests James McCord, and the whole Watergate thing begins. One, boom, 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 boom. And Henry Kissinger gave an interview. He said that they just signed a treaty with the North Vietnamese to end the war. They said they knew that the North Vietnamese were going to be testing the treaty. Their plan was to go in there and bomb the living daylights out of them again to get them back in compliance, but they were so weak politically they couldn't. Okay, because of Watergate, South Vietnam collapses, Nixon administration collapses, the whole thing falls apart because of a single piece of tape rotated several inches the wrong direction and a drunk cop.
Wow. That is insane. I had no idea about that. That
Yes,
is wow. So, and that's a regular occurrence in history, like just little things like that changing everything.
Yes, you have it over and over again. That's a tiny little mistake here, a tiny little mistake there, and the entire whole empire can collapse. And we have cases where the gates are left wide open in fortresses, which led to the defeat of the fortress and changed the direction of an empire. And cases where a soldier kicks a helmet off the top of a wall, and the story there, and that leads to the empire collapsing. And then there's also a single clerical era. There's one where a single document poorly designed by one single clerk in one single county changed the outcome of a presidential election and led directly to a major war. 50,000 people killed, billions of dollars down the drain, all because of a single clerical mistake. I could tell you that story if you like, or are we going to something else, or whatever you think?
No, please do.
Yes, that had to do with the 2000 election. It was down in Palm Beach County. I won't say the lady's name, but a very nice lady, very intelligent lady. She was the clerk of elections down there in Palm Beach, and she redesigned the ballot so that the older people down there it was big print so they could see it easily. And it was a butterfly ballot. They called it the left page and a right page with a series of punch holes down the center, but it was poorly designed. Al Gore was the number 2 name on the left side of the ballot, but he was the number 3 punch hole. The number 2 punch hole belonged to Pat Buchanan on the right side. So a lot of people got confused. They were punching the hole for Pat Buchanan when they meant to punch the hole for Al Gore. Well, in the surrounding counties, Pat Buchanan got maybe 150 votes per county, something like that. This particular county gets like 3,600, way more than he should have gotten. He himself said that the voters were confused. Well, Al Gore lost the state by like 456 votes. He easily would have gotten 3, 4, 5,000 more votes if there hadn't been some confusion over the ballot. He would have won Florida. He would have won the presidential election. He was adamantly opposed to the war against Iraq, and so which cost us 50,000 people killed and $2 trillion spent. All of it because of a single mistake on the ballot. They had the nice lady on one of the morning talk shows back some 20 years ago saying to her, people say that you're responsible for this war. And she was in tears. She's crying. Well, man, we appreciate the fact that you're crying, but we got 50,000 dead people and $2 trillion down the drain. Of course, President Bush has to take responsibility for the war overall, but that one little mistake would have turned things in a different direction.
Wow. So how about explain how this methodology of looking at these massive impacts started by very, very small mistakes. How does that translate to Trump, Ukraine, Russia? Is this one of those scenarios where something very simple blew up into now what is $300 billion down the drain, and seemingly no end in sight so supposedly we have a peace deal, then we don't have a peace deal, then we have a peace deal, then we don't have a peace deal. What's going on?
I don't know. I don't know if the situation in Ukraine is necessarily caused by a tiny mistake. Not all disasters got to come from tiny mistakes. You could argue, I suppose, that if there had not been such a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, maybe that would have made a difference. The United States would have appeared strong and well organized. Maybe that would not have made a difference in Putin's decision to invade. That's hard to say. You could also argue that if it hadn't been for the leak in COVID and over there in the Wuhan lab, which led to the COVID crisis, which led to Donald Trump's defeat in the 2000 election, and that would he would have been president, elected the president in 2000. Then maybe the invasion would not have taken place, and the leak is a tiny mistake that killed 15 million people. So you can argue it from different directions, but not all disasters come from tiny mistakes. Sometimes they come from big, stupid mistakes. So it just depends on the situation.
I find a lot of major foreign policy mistakes comes down to big, stupid mistakes. I've often taken the position that foreign policy really devolves down to a measuring contest between the men involved. And very often it's really as simple as when you say you are going to do something. We all have seen it every election cycle. Each president, no matter what side of the aisle they're on, gets tested by one of the little dictators out there, whether it's Iran, whether it's North Korea, and usually at the behest of China or Russia or one of the bigger major players. And I'm including Little Kim and North Korea in this. But normally these smaller guys say, hey, go ahead and mess with the United States and let us react to it, see how we react. And that dictates pretty much how the entire world is looking at foreign policy for those next 4 years. And when your response is keep messing around, I'm going to drop a Moab on you. And then you mess around and then we drop a Moab on you, that changes the dynamics of, okay, this is a guy who's willing to do what he says he's going to do. Let's take him from that point on as a basic baseline of negotiations. And when you have, say, Obama in the red line backing off from what he said he was going to do, all of a sudden you have all right, so this guy is not willing to take it to that level. Or say Biden talk big in front of the camera, pussycat in the negotiating room, same thing. And so I see there's inconsistencies between how a lot of presidents purport themselves in front of a camera versus how they purport themselves in negotiations, and whether or not when you say something, you actually follow up on it. That's what I think a lot of the problem really comes down to, is we've had a schizophrenic foreign policy for about the past 40 years.
Well, yes, and no one starts a war expecting to lose the war. They see weakness as of course, World War II, going way back in the 1920s and 30s, there was the peace movement, the pacifist movement, and their basic philosophy was to bankrupt the god of war. Okay, where cut back on spending on these weapons, that sort of thing. That's those weapons. That's what leads to this war there. And that's the position that we're taking. We had kind of a pacifist influence in the United States. We were cutting back on contractors. We would not even support the democracies that were under threat from dictatorships. So we said, well, that's the way to go with peace. We want to take a pacifist approach. But of course, it was the worst possible thing you could do. General Marshall said at the time that we were carrying the treasure and freedom of this great nation in a paper bag. And so weakness, of course, invites attack. If we had taken 1/4 of what World War II cost us, and we'd invested that in better planes, better ships, a stronger military, the United States had built itself up, there's a serious chance that the Japanese would have seen that and not attacked. Same thing with Hitler, and so on. So, but so weakness invites attack. Strength repels attack. You have peace through strength, basic common sense. And so, what just happened, of course, in Iran with the B-2 bombers and that whole operation, they're supporting the Israelis, blowing the daylights out of them, gained us a lot of respect. Yeah, and the Chinese are far, far less likely to invade Taiwan. They're saying openly that they're not going to, which is something they haven't never said before. We have also applying the economic pressure to Russia, in addition to knowing that of course, the B-2 flying over his head down in Alaska. he showed the strength, and he's communicated he's willing to use that strength both economically and if he has to militarily. That changes the calculus completely. If you have a weak leader like we did with President Biden, there's all kinds of bad things that happen. If you have a strong leader, people respect you, they're ready to cooperate with you. Can you imagine? I'll go ahead and say if Kamala Harris had been president and if she invited the European leaders to come to the White House for a meeting, I don't think anybody would show up. They don't respect her personally. They would respect the strength of the United States military. So it's a whole different situation with President Trump.
Hey, Julian, if you don't mind, I had a couple of things to say. We are our guest, Jared Knott. He's the author of Tiny Blunders and Big Disasters, Book 2. And one thing when he's talking about military stuff is he knows a lot about it. Little thing here that caught my eye. He's a decorated combat infantry officer in Vietnam in the 1st Air Cavalry Division. Which, if I remember correctly, Jared, it brought a complete different type of war or a style of war that the United States started doing in Vietnam. But anyway, looking at your book, you also do you keep track now of? You have a lot of old time like World War II, Vietnam. All empires and stuff like that. But do you keep your eyes open now for things that are happening right now, or just a few years ago? And what is the smallest blunder that's been in the past few years? I'd say that you think it may actually become a big blunder.
Well, yeah, you go back to October the 7th, which is coming up on 2 years ago this October. The Mossad, the Israeli intelligence system, had a reputation for being almost infallible. They had been successful in so many different ways, seeing around the corners what the Arabs were doing with the threats were a very well respected, most respected intelligence service perhaps in the world. And there's something called victory disease. If you get too many successes in a row, you may start getting overconfident, you may start lowering your guard. Supposedly, the president of Egypt warned the Israelis that something big was getting ready to happen 3 days before it took place, and supposedly they said he didn't receive that kind of warning, but it may or may not be true. But anyway, there was a lot of indications that something was getting ready to happen, and the Israelis just simply did not respond to the early warnings. And there was this horrible, horrible humiliation, disaster took place, killing of civilians in torturous ways, children being burned in ovens, and horrible, horrible things. But that was a tiny lapse in security and not listening to not only alleged warnings from Egypt, but also there are other indications. They saw people training the glider aircraft near where the attacks took place and so on. So they dropped their guard. And of course, they come back with a huge, huge, huge vengeance. And the people who suffered the most have been Hamas and the proxies of Iran, now Iran itself, of course, being destroyed. So it's ended up being a massive victory on the side of the Israelis, but it began as a horrible humiliation because of a lapse in security on the part of Israel.
Wow. Yeah. I honestly, I hadn't thought of it like that. Is with Ukraine, I think when it comes to Ukraine and Russia and Trump, I think the main reason that we're in that situation is because we have a very inconsistent foreign policy when it comes to Russia and Ukraine. There's been multiple agreements, not necessarily treaties, and then there was, trying to put missiles in the Donbass region and stuff, which we wouldn't accept if we were in Russia's position. That's why we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. So, there are different little things that I think, kind of pushed us. They kept pushing us in this direction of where we should expect a response from Russia. And at the same time, I think there's a lapse in communication. And obviously, there is nobody who can honestly say that the media is not been wholly disastrous in their coverage of this, biased coverage against the Trump administration stuff, which honestly plays a lot into Putin's hands with the war, because when you make Trump look weak on a national stage and there's so much antagonistic stuff against Trump. He's now having to battle that back here, which is going to mess up his ability to be able to negotiate abroad, which I think tamps down. And obviously, he wasn't in office when this started. I actually agree with your what you said earlier, that there is a good chance, had it not been for the Wuhan leak, that Trump would have remained president. The war might not have happened, or at least not happened at that time. Maybe we would have been experiencing it right now with a later Kamala Harris regime or Pete Buttigieg or Gavin Newsom regime. I don't know. But I do think that what you're saying about these small little things cascading into bigger events, I don't think anything really happens in a vacuum. I think it is literally a butterfly effect.
Oh, yes. In fact, I mentioned the butterfly effect. That was Professor Lorenz, way back in the 1950s. Kind of interesting story about the etymology, this origin of that particular phrase. He was a mathematician, and he was doing the computers of that day, of course, much slower than the ones that we have in the 21st century. And he was working on a problem, a formula to predict weather. And he had this number that we had the number plus a decimal and 18 small numbers behind it, getting to a real tiny fraction. But it was taking the computer so long to run. He said, let me just whack off 6 of those numbers. We'll have a decimal and 12 numbers, so 12 decimal and 18 numbers, and it'll speed his things up a lot. And he was amazed at what a difference it made in the outcome of the forecast that he was working on. So he made a presentation to this mathematical conference, talking about how that would mean that just a tiny little change, a butterfly flapping its wings in Brazil, could set off a chain reaction that could lead to a hurricane in Texas a year and a half later. And that was a little bit of an overstatement, but that was the origin of the phrase, the butterfly effect. And that's what the book is about, tiny little mistakes that multiply and domino and end up in these horrible disasters. But it happened not every, as you say, I think most of the mistakes that take place are just big, stupid mistakes. But there are a lot of small mistakes that do domino, do tumble, one thing leading to another, and you end up with disaster. Another small example, or this big example, of Titanic. I open up the book, the first book, with that illustration when the officers were changing the second in command for the ship, for the Titanic, just before it sailed. And the officer that had been in charge failed to pass on the key to the locker to the new officer coming in. And the glasses, the binoculars, were down there in that locker. So when the people up in the crow's nest were trying to look for icebergs on the open Atlantic with a naked eye, and the particular iceberg that hit, by the way, was a black one. It was a dark colored iceberg. They were not able to see it as quickly as they would have with the binoculars. They called down immediately. It would change the direction of the ship to turn into port. Okay, but it came several minutes too late, and they ran into the iceberg. In the investigation afterwards, one of the men survived. Asked him if they had the binoculars, would it have made a difference? Yes, it would have. How much of a difference? Well, in plenty of time to be able to get out of the way. Another 3 or 4 minutes in advance, they would have turned to the left. The whole thing would have been avoided, except for that single tiny mistake.
Damn, it's crazy how this happens. I don't know how we keep getting in these situations. You know what I'd like to see is I'd like to see somebody take your methodology here of looking at how these tiny little things cascade into larger events and use AI to map out likely events that could end up in catastrophic consequences later on. Like, say, obviously we can't control what Mother Nature does. We have a very minuscule effect on Mother Nature. The Earth is going to rebound faster than any of us, and it'll outlive us and all sorts of stuff. However, when it comes to, like, say, war or famine or something like Wuhan, or, you know, there are these things, economic collapse, things like these, where if we could use AI to map out, like, all right, little blunder here, what could this potentially turn into, and see if AI has the computing power to actually give us these results. Maybe we might be able to steer away from the cliff we seem like we're heading towards.
Well, yeah, talking about COVID, what happened there was kind of an interesting story, is that the Dr. Fauci, running his organization, he financed gain of function research at the Wuhan lab. What gave us some research is they take one virus and they combine it with another virus to make it more virulent, and then study it very carefully. And that was proposed back then, and then right away, even without AI, a lot of the researchers were saying, whoa, 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 that's very, very, very dangerous. You could produce a virus for which we have no antidote, we have no antibodies or antidote or any way to deal with it. They don't cross over that bridge and go into that dangerous area. Dr. Fauci said, no, not a problem. And he funded, spending millions of dollars to send to the Wuhan lab to fund that kind of very dangerous research. Don't worry about it. We got it under control. And then when the COVID broke out, then they started getting messages that there was indications that the virus was an engineered virus. And of course, that would put him in a very awkward position. And so they panicked, something of a panic. They put together this whole scenario about the virus coming from the wet market there in Wuhan. It jumped over from a bat, and it held up for several months. So this scorching scandal, he got a little bit past him before the truth started coming out. The FBI came out and said with moderate certainty that it was definitely a leak from the lab. Other people, the Senate investigating committee, Energy Department, others said yes, it was a leak from the lab. So, but that came some months later, so it wasn't quite such a blast as it would have been if it came right in the middle of the crisis. But that was that's kind of I don't want to call it a stupid mistake, but I guess the person that somehow let it escape from the lab, I guess that's a tiny mistake that led to 15 million people dying. And then on that section, by the way, in the book there's another lab mistake that was equally, even more to the good, many times to the good, and that was, of course, Professor Fleming back at St. Mary's Hospital in London in 1928. He was known for being kind of a slob, brilliant man, kind of absent-minded, a little bit messy, a little bit sloppy. He was going to Scotland for a vacation for 2 weeks, and he had petri dishes strewn around, and he had the bacteria smeared on the petri dishes, and he had them all stacked up there on the table. And he left the window to his lab open. Well, I'm going off to vacation. I'll clean it up when I get back. Well, miracles, a spore apparently blew in through the window and landed in one of the petri dishes. It happened to be a penicillin mold. And it came back from Scotland. He recognized what was going on. Wait a minute. Right where the mold has landed, there's a halo around it. It's killed all the bacteria. Whoa. We have something here. We have something from the penicillin mold that kills bacteria. That was the first opening. And from that, step after step after step, led to the discovery and effective use of penicillin, which has saved hundreds of millions of lives, maybe as much as a billion lives, since 1942, when it was finally available in large quantities. So that's a tiny mistake in the lab that saved hundreds of millions of lives. We had the other mistake that has cost us 15 million and counting. So it can go either way, just depending on whether the Lord has a sense of humor or not.
You know what, guys? What little blunder I would like to see?
What's up?
I would like to win Mega Millions tonight. That would be a little blunder. A little blunder that would have a great effect.
Shit.
So,
yeah. Hey, Jared, we're coming to a close. Actually, we're a little bit over, but I just wanted to see if in 30 seconds or less, you can tell me the story about the soldier that kicked his helmet down the, helmet off the top of the wall, and it caused the whole empire to collapse. What was that all about?
Yes. I'll give you kind of a condensed version there. It has to do with Cyrus the Great, who was mentioned in the Bible very favorably. He's the one who gave the children of Israel their freedom. But anyway, he was the founder of the Persian Empire, and he was moving in the direction of having a big conflict with the leader of Lydia, who was Croesus. And the Croesus had gone to the Oracle of Delphi, and they said they had splashed a lot of money around, so on and so forth, trying to get a favorable prediction regarding the war. They said a big battle will be fought, a great victory will be won. Anyway, coming down to the bottom line there, they had the big battle, and they fought basically to a draw, and Cyrus the Great withdrew, then he came back. But anyway, laying siege to the fortress, up on top of the fortress, winter was coming. They may be able to, Cyrus may have been in big trouble, and not enough supplies to support his troops. Anyway, the soldier kicked the helmet off the top of the wall, goes all the way down to the bottom. Soldier gets off the wall, walks down kind of a secret passageway down the wall, gets his helmet, and walks all the way back up. He's seen by one of Cyrus the Great's men. Whoa. Look, there's a secret passageway up the side of the wall. So the next night they sent a raiding party up the passageway, goes over the top of the wall, goes over to the gates, forces the gates open. Cyrus's army is waiting there at the gates, come pouring in, and Cyrus the Great defeats Croesus, an emperor of Lydia, for a major victory in the ancient world.
Wow. That is
So be careful with
amazing.
your feet. Be careful with your feet.
Tell everybody where they can find your book, sir.
Yes, go to tinyblundersbigdisasters.com. tinyblundersbigdisasters.com. We have a fun website there. We have 2 free chapters. We have 3 trailers, Instagram trailers. We have a John Wayne trailer. We also have a Elon Musk trailer. Have a portrait gallery, so it's a fun place to visit. And we have a special this week on the book.
All right. Thank you, sir. I thoroughly enjoyed this interview. This has been fantastic. I hope we can have you on in the near future because I am just absolutely fascinated. I'm definitely going to have to buy a copy of the book. All right. So that's the end of this segment. Up next, after the short break, we're going to have a guest on, Erik Weir, entrepreneur, author, investor, advisor, to discuss Trump's tariffs and how they affect American citizens. Stay tuned. Make sure to follow Ram TV Live on all platforms. See you in a moment.
United We Stand. A Marine's Fight, written by Marine Corps veteran Julian Eschyard. This book examines the deepening fractures in our nation, political division, government overreach, and a fading sense of shared responsibility, and offers a battle-tested path forward. A Marine's Fight is a bold and urgent call to action for every American who believes in the founding ideals of our republic. United We Stand. A Marine's Fight can be purchased on Amazon.
New Hampshire Republican Governor Kelly Ayotte has been making a lot of noise about how she's funding education. The Republican budget she just signed provides more money for education than ever before. She even bragged the other day that New Hampshire is top 10 in the country when it comes to funding our children's education, as if giving money to school systems has anything to do with learning. If you look at the math, and if you got schooled in New Hampshire, the odds are good it's not your best subject. It's the exact opposite. The more money we throw at schools, the less kids learn. We're committed to wasting money on an experiment that failed, unless wasting money to drive parents to homeschool their kids was the goal. We prefer to pick on Democrats, lower hanging fruit and all that, but our rhetorical woodshed doesn't discriminate. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
The Spirit of a True Patriot. The inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest. Douglas Ernest dives into the thrilling and transformative journey of a man who defied the odds to forge his path as a soldier and a businessman. This book is more than an autobiography. It's a call to action. Experience the remarkable story of a man who never takes no for an answer. You can find The Spirit of a True Patriot, the inspiring story of retired Captain Douglas J. Ernest, on Amazon.
This could be the moment we've been waiting for, the chance to feel alive.
Sometimes we forget we live in one of the most beautiful states in the country. This summer, vacation right here and discover your new.
This is where it all begins. This is where it all begins.
Okay, Julian, I'm really excited about the next one.
Yep, we got Erik Weir. He is an entrepreneur, author, investor, advisor, and speaker whose story reflects resilience and achievement. He's on here. He is the principal of Taverick Capital, LLC, a premier wealth advisory firm, and he is here to talk about Trump's tariffs and how they affect American citizens, because guess what, people? It's your wallet. Hopefully, you take what he says very seriously, because it's going to have consequences.
And I'm going to leave you with him, but remind him to ask him how I can be rich. I know he can tell me how I can become rich. That's the important thing about today's show. Okay, I went to Mega Millions, and Eric's going to tell me how I can be rich.
Hey, I'd be happy with just winning the Lucky for Life, $1,000 a day for life. That would be. I'm lowballing. I'm very, very cheap. I'm a cheap girlfriend.
Hey, we just won the lottery. Here's Erik.
How you doing today, sir? Thank you for coming on the show. Uh-oh. It looks like we're losing. We don't have audio, sir. All right. Well,
Yeah,
we're going to wait a minute while we try to get his audio back, get the audio figured out, and we'll be with you in just a moment. But you know what? More to that lottery thing. I would love to win the 600 million for the Powerball or the 200 million of the Mega Millions. But I'm cheap these days. My lifestyle wouldn't change that much if I won the lottery. I would probably live in the same size house. I would take more vacations with my kids and my family. I'd probably do a few things, but I'd probably have the car I want or whatever. But nothing really extravagant. What I would love is the $1,000 a day for life, because that's around about 365 grand a year on top of what I already make and what I already do. To be around 490, 470 something a year. That is perfectly enough for me to live comfortably on, invest quite a bit in my kids' future and stuff like that. Don't need anything crazy. But, there are financial tricks out there. We had a guest on Granite State Live last week who was lining out a whole bunch of financial tricks that you can use to build out your portfolio and so on. So I want you to go back and I want you to watch that episode and look at a lot of what he says, because I did a lot of research after the show and it was fantastic. All right. It looks like we have Erik Weir on and the audio is fixed. How you doing, sir? All right. Thank you for being on. Uh-oh. I think we just lost him again. Maybe it's me. Maybe I have bad luck. Maybe that's why I don't win the lottery.
I think that's what it is, brother.
I'm like, damn, I need better luck, man. I swear, sometimes you have those years where everything works out like fantastic, and you have those years where the hits just keep on coming. I'm having one of those years right now where the hits just keep on coming.
Yeah, but it's not gonna happen anymore. Why? Because I gave you something today.
Yeah, we got little Jesus. I got little Jesus.
Yeah, where's little Jesus? You gotta have little Jesus. Where is he? You gotta show him.
I gotta show
Everybody
you guys.
needs a little Jesus.
I got little Jesus right here.
A little Jesus in your life.
Little Jesus in my life. He's gonna sit right here, right next to my coffee, and be here to support me through this very, very, this really, really tough year.
There you go. I think we got him finally.
Now we're here.
All right. We're good to go, sir. How are you doing today?
Great. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm doing great. Thank you. Doing great.
All right. So what do you think about Trump's tariffs so far? What is the average person missing? How is this going to affect everyone's wallets?
I think let me take a step back. I think what we're missing is what tariffs were before Trump came to office. The United States automakers were paying 15 to 25% tariffs in China for our cars, while Chinese cars were paying 3%. U.S. agricultural goods were paying 10 to 15%. We're just charging China basically 3% on just about everything. So when he goes to retrade, you have the largest trading partner in the world who is charging other countries low tariffs. Other countries are charging us a relatively high tariff, so it makes our goods less desirable in the world forum. So the idea of massively changing tariffs, even temporarily, to adjust better deals on U.S. goods has two massive things. It helps U.S. jobs grow. It helps U.S. exports to be more desirable in foreign countries because now they're paying less for them, and at the same time, it makes foreign countries say, hey, instead of paying 5 or 10 or 8, maybe 15% tariffs, I'm going to put my plant in America, which creates more jobs, more opportunities, and ultimately more tax revenue.
So I gotta completely agree with you. That we had a tax and tariff specialist come on a couple weeks back, and I challenged him this. Milton Friedman had said, if you can't have free trade, then you ought to damn sure have fair trade. And one of my major criticisms of the free trade bubbas out there, the free trade bros, is that free trade in the U.S. has always seemed to invariably mean that it's free trade on our side, but it's not free trade on their side. It always seems to be
Right,
attached to
right.
this idea of managed decline. Like we owe it to the rest of the world to build up the third world and all that stuff at our own expense. And I'm going, why would I help the poor man or the family down the street at the expense of my family while my family is barely while I can if I can barely put food on the table for my family? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, and that's been exactly what we've done, and it's pretty consistent through the whole government. Is if it doesn't work, you subsidize it, right?
Yep.
So our strategy hasn't worked, and they subsidize it. So I believe now and I do business in some foreign countries. We're seeing people are like, wow, they've realized that they've had a pretty fair shake from the U.S. for decades. It's going to come back into balance. And if you've read the book Art of the Deal by Trump, what he does is creates something super not desirable for you at all in exchange, and it's something that's fairly balanced and reasonable. But if you've seen how long it takes in politics, if you try to make gradual change, it takes, you don't have enough time in the administration. So it's like, I got an idea for you. 50% tariff starts in 90 days. Well, now you're negotiating, and he doesn't want a 50% tariff. Nobody does. But you end up having, to your point, fair trade.
Yes. And that's a contention that I've been raising with a lot of the free trade bubbas is, look, I'm not a libertarian. I have a lot of libertarian leaning ideas. I think it's great for domestic policy. I just think it's shit when it comes to foreign policy and international trade, because we're acting as if everyone else in the world was a libertarian, we wouldn't have a problem. But everyone else had honorable interests and was willing to engage in good faith, we wouldn't have an issue. But because everyone is not a libertarian and not able to engage in good faith and are willing to take all the money we give them in foreign aid while simultaneously giving it back, getting us when it comes to the trade imbalances and stuff, we're constantly taking a hit on the behalf of all these other countries. And to be honest, I don't care about anybody else anywhere in the world that is not an American citizen. I only care about American citizens. So I want American citizens. I want our goods to be sold at reasonable prices around the world. I saw a stat, and I mentioned it with that tariff, Bubba. We could charge a 200% tariff on Chinese automobiles, specifically electric automobiles in the United States, because they have so many of the resources needed to make electric vehicles at such low cost domestically because of their natural resources. And we have all the components to make gas engines here, combustion engines in the United States domestically, because we have all those resources. When we invariably propped up the EV market, we actually gave China everything they need to supplant the combustion engine market within the United States on our own dime. And we could charge them 200% on every vehicle they bring into the United States, and they were still coming in lower than the average cost of the lowest cost combustion engine vehicles in the United States.
It's so true. And the same thing we've seen with we've seen with photovoltaic solar and your flat solar panels. Is China was making them and selling them at a cost that was maybe 1/3 of our manufacturing costs in the U.S. And that gave China a big leg up in solar energy in the U.S. in terms of sales. So I think that what Trump is seeking to do as a business person, he's not approaching as a politician. He's just saying, hey, these policies are bad. They've been on the books a long time. I think I can do a better job for America. I can negotiate better deals. I'm here for 4 years. Let's see how far we can get. And it's been remarkable what's accomplished so far. There's been a lot of rhetoric, a lot of noise, a lot of drama, a lot of excitement. But in that, if you can take a step back from the kabuki theater and just look at the changes happening, it's been significant. Yeah. And the tariffs are designed to reduce the federal deficit. And people are anxious, saying, well, it's going to create deficit issues. It's going to create problems. But when you create jobs, I mean, instead of paying 5, 10, 8% tax, if I add 10,000 people to a town in North Carolina and they pay a 7%, maybe North Carolina's an example, but some states have 6, 7% state tax, or if then I'm paying federal tax, I have a car tax, property tax, and any other kind of taxes, you grow the tax base. And in most cases, thoughtful tax breaks in thoughtful ways actually grow to tax revenue.
So Trump is taking the methodology once again. Very few Republicans, even on our own side of the aisle, this is something that I critique my own side of the aisle for a very, very lot. Quite a bit with is the lack of growth mindset for people who supposedly are so economically geared towards growth and plentifulness and the idea of not getting into redistributive wealth. If you're not getting into redistributive wealth and you're constantly looking at the markets as things that can grow and evolve faster than any amount of government can regulate to solve a problem, then you have to have a growth mindset, which means we have to be looking at constantly how to grow our markets, increase jobs, increase the viability of manufacturing and operations within the United States, and constantly make sure the United States is the hub where everyone wants to come and do business and wants to make their goods, sell their goods, and wants to exist. And if we can do that, we can outpace any amount of tariffs in the meantime to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think your point, to take it a step further, the U.S. has educated the world. We've educated the world. We have more technology. It's something that 85% of AI is located in Northern California and centered in San Francisco. That's a huge wave that's coming for the next 10, 20 years and more. And what's interesting is because of the way we've structured tariffs and other things, the manufacturers have left the U.S., but we have the workforce, we have the people to bring it back. And if we have fair trade, I think we'll be the technology center of the world as we have been. We'll be the education center of the world as we have been, and we'll go back and reclaim more manufacturing prowess that we had maybe 30 years ago. And it's coming back now. If you look, as people are saying, I'm going to open up in America, I'm coming here because the tariffs and the taxation and distribution costs. It makes sense to be in the largest market. So I think what he's doing is thoughtful, it's dramatic, it's thematic, but at the end of the day, I believe it's making a lot of a positive impact and will for some time.
And I think the part that a lot of people are missing out on is these manufacturing jobs. These are the jobs that built the middle class in America. These are the jobs that allowed one man to be able to maintain an entire household on one income. They give you health benefits. They give you retirement benefits. They set you up for long-term benefits, not just for you and your kids. And you've seen entire cities that were built on these types of jobs. And when those jobs start to ship away, you see chunks of the city just start to decay. Detroit is a great example of this. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, which was a good example of it. You see it all throughout the Rust Belt. And now that those jobs are coming back, we're also going to see, because AI is looking to replace a lot of clerical jobs that typically women operate. Low-level clerical jobs are about to be completely wiped out by AI over the next 10 years. I think under the Obama administration, we had the whole everybody better learn to code, and then AI comes, and the top list of everything that AI is going to wipe out are all the jobs that 10 years ago under the Obama administration we were telling everybody to go into. And now, but these manufacturing jobs are not jobs that are going to be replaced by AI, at least not soon, because the robotics aren't there quite yet.
Well, I think the productivity, and I think I encourage people to learn AI, to study at their programs. You can study on your phone just to learn how to prompt and to just build basic skills. But I think AI isn't going to replace as many jobs.
I lost audio for a brief moment. Uh-oh.
They'll be more competitive in
I
the
got you back now.
So people, Yeah. So I think people who adapt and anticipate and learn how to use AI will be more desirable in the marketplace and will have a much more job security than those who act like it's not coming and this
Yeah.
isn't a change that I need to even take seriously. And it was one I saw something very, very interesting. It was a cast from the Today Show in the middle '90s, and they were talking about the internet. What is the internet, and what's .com? What does .com mean? And it was interesting to see. And so much has changed in that period of time. And the pace of change appears to be running at a much greater pace than that change was. And if you remember, the cell phone started, it wasn't a smartphone. Then it was a smartphone, then became social media, then became a way to shop and spend. And AI will accelerate what we saw in 30 years in less than 10. So I think for people who are listening, you do what you can to learn. Don't be intimidated by it. It'll be here. And if you can learn it, I think your employability and your ability to earn a wage will only increase.
Yeah, I use AI to do research. I use it quite a bit. So what I'll do is I have my special ability is to take the 1,000,000-foot view of everything. And I have ADD. So my mind works like a Google search. Every time you say one word, I get 10 different branches off to different thought patterns, and I'm typically able to take each and every thought pattern, deviation and thought pattern, and bring it back down into this easy to understand breakdown that the average person who may not be an expert in a field or on a particular topic can understand a very complex issue. When I take AI, I'll use AI to help research, so I'm digesting the equivalent of like a bachelor's degree in a week, because I just constantly, yeah, like I'm addicted to information. It's like I
Sure.
read studies for fun, and that makes me kind of a dork, but but it helps me with my ability. So I'm constantly going, wow, AI is this fantastic tool that if you use it correctly, you can become indispensable.
Yeah, and I've heard a few well-known tech people talk about there'll be a person in this decade who starts a business by himself and creates a $1 billion valuation, just mastering and using AI. So it's remarkable. You can build a website more quickly. You can edit more quickly. You can take your own thoughts and create and grow. So it's helpful. It's helpful. It's not too different than if I want to go from town A to town B. I could walk. I could take a bicycle. I could take a motor, or I could drive a car. And AI is the car.
Hey, Eric, I got a couple of questions for you, if you don't mind. First one, it has to do with the tariffs. And I just want to either dispel the myth or whatever, just get the information correct. Exactly who is paying for the tariffs? Is it the country and the manufacturer out there, or is it the American people?
Yes.
So there's two ways to look at that. So if I'm charging the corporation a tariff when their goods could come in, then the corporation is actually they're paying the tariff themselves. However, when the goods are being resold, then that tariff will be an expense that ultimately be borne by the consumer. That being said, there's a balancing act where U.S. goods that were shipped abroad used to have 15, 20, 25% tariffs. That was also an expense that was added to our goods. So it's a push me pull me kind of analysis. But when you look at the job creation that'll happen by having tariffs and companies relocating, when you look at what that'll do to real estate prices, what it'll do to wages, what it'll do to our tax base, it's very hard to argue that it's not positive. And I think the goal on the tariffs is not to have an onerous 50, 100, 150% tariff, though that may be a punitive state that could go on for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. I think the desire is to have something that's fair, and that is a tariff would be kind of largest economy in the world. Then and you have fair trade, you're fair footing, and you'll have a good outcome. What we had before was the largest economy in the world that paid higher tariffs by orders of magnitude 3 to 5 times what other countries doing business with it is. So if you and I were going to do business, and I say, I tell you what, I'm going to sell you eggs and you sell me butter, and on the eggs that I sell you, you're going to charge me a 50% tariff, and on the butter you sell me, I'm going to charge you 3%. You'd be like, that's a great deal, but I mean, that'd be bad for me to do that, right? But that's what we've done. America for decades. So it's hard to imagine negotiating such poor deals, but it was done. And I think what Trump is doing is just taking a drastic action by going to orders of magnitude that are uncomfortable for a country, not with the idea of keeping it there, but to bring them to a negotiating table and finding something fair.
So when you're talking about the tariffs and who pays for it, and that's a great explanation. We as American people got to look at the whole pie of what's going on, right? So
Right, that's right.
not just that we're paying for this product. It's just that tariffs is bringing more to the American economy than just that. So, and speaking of pie, because you actually happened to mention that somebody in this time in history is going to create $1 billion company with AI, right? And I want to be that guy because I really feel like somebody is eating my pie right now. Okay.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
So anyway, please tell me, what does rich means to be rich? How can I build wealth right now?
That's such a great question, and you have to start with what is wealth to any particular person. Wealth to one person may be I don't have to worry. I can afford my way through retirement, and I can go on vacation occasionally, and I can take care of my needs as I age. Wealth to somebody else might be I want yachts and I want cars and I want all these things. So it's really a personal answer, but we have to go take a step even back from that and say what's important in life. And I always like to look at it as a wheel where it's faith is your center, it's your belief system, faith, family, fitness, finance, friends. And I don't know there's anything as such as balance, but there can be harmony because it's hard to have balance in all areas at any one time. Sometimes you may have a new addition to the family and you're disbalanced, you're working or being pulled away from fitness or friends. But over time, the areas that we ignore, that they consume us. So it's helpful to think about balance and where you want to go with goals, and also be aware of the price you're paying to get there. But wealth means different things to different people. But anyone can, is my belief, anyone can reach financial independence as defined by somebody who can take care of their own needs a little later in life.
Wow.
Okay.
That's good. So there's hope for this 60-year-old man yet.
There's always hope, and I think what happens is we think inside of a box and a frame. I know how to do what I do. I can do more of that, less of that. But I like to look at something different. I can stop doing that or start doing something new. So there's 4 ways to make change: start, stop, more or less. Most people just think more or less. They don't think about starting and stopping. So what things could I start or stop in addition to more or less to make a massive change in my life? And if you sit there thinking, where would I like to end up, and then work your way backwards, it's much easier than trying to think about making very small incremental change. And then once you get to clarity, then you'll be surprised how quickly you can advance.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie. I am definitely in the position of I've been duped into this idea of constantly trying to, go to work, do a job, make money, pay your bills, have a good life. And that is not a path to financial independence. It is a path to retiring when you're 80 years old and you're unable to enjoy the rest of your life, and hoping that you're going to live maybe another 20 years and actually get to, take a vacation here and there and, not have to shop at the Dollar Tree. But I've been constantly on this journey of trying to, one, revamp myself, revamp my mindset, and revamp the way I look at how you're going to get to a level of financial independence so you can actually enjoy the life that you have now and buy back your time so that you don't have to sell your time for money the way most people do.
Yeah, and it's very different. I'll give you an example. We usually make change out of either desperation or inspiration. And there was a woman in San Francisco who her husband left her. She had 4 children. This is in the 70s, and she had no way to make enough money to make even the next month's apartment rent or food or anything else. So she went to a garage sale and began to buy furniture, because a lot of times people are selling furniture garage sales. It's not about the price. It's about, I bought new furniture. I want this out of my house. Mm-hmm. So she collected wicker and old wooden furniture, brought it to her.
Uh-oh. We lost you again. Can you hear me?
All right, there we go.
Yeah,
Yeah, so she went into garage sales and then bought furniture, then brought it back to her apartment. Her and her children would paint them white, and then she had them beat them with chains and sandpaper, and she called the company Shabby Chic. And within 15 years, she sold that company for hundreds of millions of dollars. But that came out of necessity. So, like I was saying, it's always start or stop. But usually, in all of us, there's an idea, there's something there that we maybe haven't taken time to develop, and there's something that we can do outside of our normal 9 to 5 that could be it could be a supplement, and at some point could even be your primary source of income.
Yeah, there's actually because my family, we own a commercial cleaning company, and we started out 23 years ago. I was my father's first employee.
There you
Now,
go.
yeah, now we operate all over New Hampshire and Massachusetts. And we're one of the best cleaning companies in all of New England. And one of the things that I've always looked at is a quick way to make money. You go to garage sales and you see people selling old furniture that has stains and stuff like that. Well, we own a $60,000 carpet cleaning machine. Let's go ahead and
There you
take
go.
this carpet or this crate and barrel sofa from the wealthy side of town, where for them getting rid of a $1,500 sofa is not that big of a deal, but to the people on the other side of town, it's a crate and barrel sofa. It's a $2,000 sofa. So like we'll get it from them for a couple $100, go ahead and clean it up, get everything back in order, looking brand new, sandpaper it down, restain a few things, post it online. All of a sudden we're flipping 400% of what we bought it for at a garage sale.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's it. And sometimes the people investing, I get that all the time. I can save $50 a month, $100 a month. How do I ever save enough to get there? Well, there are two schools of thought. One is if you have enough time, you can get by with $50 or $100 a month. But if you don't, you can do what you said and just find something along those lines. Where you can just take a moment, take a weekend, reimagine things that can be done. And oftentimes, investing in yourself is the best thing. Whether it's buying a book and reading it, understanding a process or a business or a Facebook marketplace. But I bet in most people's apartments or houses, there are things that they're not using, will never use, don't want to get rid of, that would have some value to somebody else. That could be almost like as seed capital for their new venture, and something can help them and maybe simplify some of their current space in their house. I've invested in self-storage properties for many years. And I'm always amazed when people don't pay and you go in with the lock, you look and see what they have inside. You're like, I don't think this is worth $150 a month for 5 years, but they didn't want to go through the time to get rid of it. They'd rather pay $150 a month for 5 years than deal with it. So there's so many simple and repeatable things you can do to make massive change over time that really just about anybody can have a much better life.
Actually, one of the things I know we're coming up on the end of the segment and everything. One of the things I actually looked at was using AI to identify prime stocks within AI and cybertech for me to invest in, and identifying AI day trading platforms so I can use the AI day trading platforms to buy and sell these stocks and let it do its work, do all the work for me. So I don't have to memorize the market or anything like that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. It has many applications. That's true.
All right. I want to thank you for coming on. Where can people buy your book, sir?
So if you go to Amazon, Amazon.com, you can just put in Who's Eating Your Pie or Erik Weir. You can follow me on Instagram at Erik Weir, ERIKWEIR. Go to my website, erikweir.com.
All right. Thank you, sir. It was wonderful having you on. I can't wait to talk to you in the near future. Up next, we have another guest on, and it's going to be a fantastic conversation after the break.
We're going to have to. Probably not. I just got a call from him and stuck at work, and we won't be able to have him today, so we have to reschedule for a later date.
All right. Well, it doesn't matter because we'll still give you some more fire content in the next segment. After this break, we'll be right back.
Not everyone can get up every day and look for ways to piss people off. But here at GraniteRock.com, we do that almost every day. I can't tell you how many times someone's lost their SHIT and threatened to end us. But we're still here, pissing people off. It's almost like we enjoy it. and we've been doing it since 2006. That's almost 2 decades of news, politics, and opinion, and now podcasts, and we're just getting started. We believe in principles before parties and politicians. We defend free markets and individual liberty, and if that makes you mad, it makes us smile. We're like Grandma after she stopped caring what other people thought. If that sounds refreshing, you need to check us out. This is Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on them for you.
Forged in Chaos, a warrior's origin story. In this raw, anti-heroic tale, Tyler Gray dissects his life, exposing the unseen war within and exploring the question, what happens when the very abilities that made you a superhero in the eyes of the world turn you into a supervillain in your own life? Despite rising PTSD awareness, we're losing more warriors at home than in war. Forged in Chaos rips the mask off the warrior experience, exposing the truth that most never dare to face. Find Forged in Chaos, a warrior's origin story, written by Tyler Gray on Amazon.
United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. I wrote this book to decipher through the tumultuous political dialogue and political gangbanging we see on both sides of the aisle between politicians, activists, influencers, and pundits, and get down to brass tacks solutions in order to save our republic. Again, United We Stand, A Marine's Fight, written by Julian Aciard. You can purchase the book on Amazon, Kindle, and Barnes & Noble. All right. Welcome back to Granite State Live. Again, make sure to follow Ram TV Live. That's Right America Media. You need to go and you need to subscribe and you need to like and you need to share with all of your friends, all of the content, watch all the shows. We've had a great couple episodes. My podcast earlier today, Granite State Live, Shadow Band is on late. We just, and what was the new one that Elsa Kurt?
Yeah, Elsa Kurt now is with us every week, the Elsa Kurt Show. And those of you that know Elsa, she has some wonderful, wonderful podcasts, and includes everything from religion to books to military stuff, anything. She can talk about everything actually. So and the way she talks about it makes you feel like $1,000,000. So even if it is a bad subject. So we're very happy to have Elsa as part of the Ram TV family. Actually, she used to be, and then when we slowed down our shows, then she's continued doing her show, and now she's back with us. And I can't be as the producer and director and everything, Waterboy of Ram TV Live. I'm very, very happy to have her on board. We also have the Drew Allen Show, all the way from California, and he talk. This guy doesn't take crap from anybody, and I really, really like it. So, we're growing. So, make sure you get your notifications in all the social medias. So that way you know when we are live. We repurpose our shows throughout the week. Make sure you like us, you follow us, and share with all your friends. This is everything is free. And remember, ramtv.live is our website. And I just want to give a shout to the Granite Grot guys out there that are also distributing our content, and I appreciate you guys. I believe they're the second largest media outfit in New Hampshire after the leftist WMUR. Did I say leftist? Was I supposed to say that? I'm sorry. After WMUR, and so we're happy to be on board with them as well. So
In trending news on X right now, New Scum, the song just hit #1 on Billboard. It's Tom McDonald's new song.
Oh my goodness, I love Tom McDonald. Yes.
Dude, he's provocative, but he often hits the nail on the head when it comes to content. I think the only song that he did that I really was not a huge fan of was the one he did with Ben Shapiro, and that's because Ben Shapiro has possibly one of the most annoying voices ever.
Yes.
He has a very, very nasally and very condescending tone of voice.
No, he does. But at the same time, he is a very, very smart guy, and looks behind everything that people don't know about. Newscom. Oh, geez. You know what? Have you seen the new thing that they're trying to do with Newscom? So he has two. I have no idea. It's two young people that actually do his social media, and those two people think that they're doing a great job by trolling all the right.
Oh yes.
Yeah, they're trolling, and it's like, and all the new. Speaking of AI, all that AI that they're putting with Newscom with his rip body, and it's like, oh my God, do you think we will forget what you have done to California just because AI is putting your head in my body? No. You get it?
No.
All ripped.
It's so when you hire somebody young to do your social media, the idea is that you want to hire somebody who understands the social media landscape, but that doesn't mean that they should devolve to the worst parts of what social media has become. Yes. It means you should use the platforms for what they're designed to be used for. And yes, and you've seen this with the Trump administration too. There is a level of trolling, there's a level of comedy and stuff like that. But what I don't think is positive for any administration to be doing is using their official accounts to go and troll under other people's accounts like that.
Yes.
Or to devolve down to the stupid stuff. And while it is very, very obvious Newsom is going to run in 2028. Anyone who's saying otherwise.
God, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, there is not a positive metric of how California is being run right now. But they are going to run, and I know people who live in California, and this is not to bash your state. I loved California when I lived there. It was a beautiful state. It's just run by psychos. It's run by people who are running it into the ground and destroying everything that's great about the state. I'm sorry, it is what it is. But you know what? That doesn't mean the state has to suck. It doesn't mean that there's not value there and that there aren't good people there. It's just those good people are not the ones running the damn state. I think you're going to see the media run cover for Gavin Newsom.
Oh, they're already doing that.
Yeah, they're going to pretend like nothing's happened.
Well, I was going to say something to interrupt you there real quick when you said there's nothing good coming out of there. Didn't they have that high speed rail?
The one that never happened?
Oh, never mind. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, gee. Hold on a second. Didn't they get all that money to those people in Palisade?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. That didn't happen here.
Yeah.
Actually, as a matter of fact, and I'm glad I brought that up because Newscom just gave the green light to use a lot of the land in Palisade to be given to developers to develop what?
Mm-hmm.
Low-income housing.
Yeah. And this is a shame, right? Because we've seen all over the country. We've seen after these disasters, after riots, after massive devaluation of property or destruction of property, you've seen private equity firms come in and buy up a lot of the property, or you've seen the state all of a sudden transform the property into these massive projects that don't actually accomplish any of the stuff that supposedly they're supposed to accomplish. Gavin Newsom, California became the #1 in the country for homelessness.
Yeah.
It became #1 destination for homelessness in the whole country. And for year after year has had more people leaving the state than moving to the state.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. What was the best for a while there? U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
U-Haul had a great business in California. The only problem was that they're running out of U-Hauls because they were all going one way. Nobody was coming in the other way. So,
they had to get to a point where they were willing to take a loss on anybody moving into California in order to even get trucks back in California.
Exactly.
And California's been playing games with their immigration numbers too, right? So
Oh yeah.
they've been saying, oh, well, the state's technically growing because our population isn't actually decreasing as fast as people say it is. And it's like, no, 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 no. You're counting illegal aliens in your population growth in order to make up for the amount of people that are leaving your state in droves. Not to mention, you're driving industry out of your state. You're driving people who pay the tax dollars to keep your state running, and then you're taxing the people who remain there at even higher rates to make up for the people who left. Because I'm sorry, the vast majority of people in society do not want to consistently be told that, one, they're evil for having worked their entire lives to get into a position where they no longer have to work, and then be told that they also have to pay for services for people who don't work. Yeah. And then when they want to leave, like California even got to a point where they wanted, under Newsom, they even got to a point where they wanted to have a tax. They wanted to tax people who decided to move out of the state. They wanted to do an exit tax.
Yes. Yes. Well, anyway, you know what? Before we shut down for tonight, I wanted to bring some news from our great state of New Hampshire, if that's okay with you.
Hell yes.
Okay. Well, Claremont, the Claremont school district is about to shut down before even they start school. Why? They have a multi-million-dollar hole. What? Oh my goodness.
I'm not even surprised, honestly.
Yeah, no, you know. So here's another one. Remember Lily?
Yep.
Lily Tang, when she came to us, and she actually she broke the news about this one, and the Nashua Water Company that got sold to a Chinese gentleman.
Yep.
Okay. Well, finally, our beloved governor has decided to tell the AG, to review the controversial Nashua water deal. Finally, doing her job.
Yep.
Outstanding. And the last one, let's see. The last one I have here. Who's been your favorite governor in the past 10 years?
Nationwide or
here in New Hampshire?
It's Sununu. It's been Sununu. Yeah, I'm like, I can't. I'm gonna be honest. For my criticisms of Sununu, we honestly, I gotta say there are things that we don't have to fight Sununu on that we would have to fight any other Republican governor on. And then there are things that we do have to fight him on that we would be able to get easier with a lot of Republican governors.
Exactly. So listen, I mean, it's like we talked about. You have to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah.
So Sununu did a lot of good things. He did a lot of bad things.
Yeah.
That's, there were things that were good. There were things that were bad. Aya is doing it, pretty much the same thing. There's things that are great. There are things that are not that great. But guess what? He just Sununu just got tapped to do.
He got tapped to be the lobbyist for the airline industry.
You got it. I didn't know he had any aviation background on him.
I didn't either. As far as, I mean, I know he's not a dumb guy. I believe he graduated MIT, did he not?
I have no idea. Yeah.
But I am kind of surprised because if you're going to become a lobbyist, I would assume that you probably have expertise in the field.
Well, I'm assuming he's flown a lot. That's
all.
I have to make that assumption. So, but anyway, we wish him well on his new endeavors. So, anyway, Julian, I'm going to leave it all to you to close out a little bit early so we can go home early.
All right. Look, everybody, it's been a fantastic episode of Granite State Live. I know Keith is not with us tonight, but he'll be back. Don't worry. He'll get your fire. He brings a fire. I bring the ice. We'll get that nice back and forth. We'll keep you entertained and stuff next week. I hope you enjoyed today's show. We got a lot of information. We had a lot of jokes, had a lot of fun. And I hope you join the Ram TV family. Make sure to share, like, subscribe on all social media platforms, and that you go and check out the replay and stuff. And don't worry, I know I've been slacking on uploading a lot of the audio to iHeartRadio and all the audio platforms, Spotify and stuff like that. I will be uploading those throughout the week one day at a time, right? And it's like AA. We got to take this shit one day at a time. And I know that it seems like it's chaos. And I know when you log online, it seems like everything is burning down and like we're speeding towards a cliff and nobody's putting on the brakes. But trust me, there are a lot of people doing a lot of good things, trying to save America, trying to pull back from speeding off this cliff. And guess what? If you take extreme ownership of your life and everything that you've failed on, I'm doing it right now. It's not comfortable. It requires a lot of looking in the mirror. It requires a lot of being vulnerable with where you messed up. If you take extreme ownership of your life and you look in the mirror and you start to really analyze where you've messed up, you can change your life. And then no matter what you have to deal with in life, you can be better on the other side of it. You can weather every storm. All right? Next week, tune back in for another fantastic episode of Granite State Live, joining the Ram TV family. I love you. Can't wait to see you next week.